Hi, and welcome back to another Warlock's Tower 9th Age Battle Report. So it's myself versus James, who I've played several times on this channel before, and this time he is using Dark Elves that he has just bought. So what we have is a multiple small unit army, very mobile, very shooty, and a little bit of magic thrown in there as well. So we've got 5 Dark Riders without shields, and behind them we've got 10 Witch Elves. Next to the Dark Riders, so scouted up and vanguarded forward, is 10 Shades, and a Bolt Thrower hunkered down behind a wall. Next to that is 10 Crossbows without shields for some bad reason. I think shields on crossbows are great. They've got with them an Alchemy, 4 spells, +3 to cast Wizard, and I'll pop the spells up on a picture. And next to that is his Lord. He has the Cloak of Midnight, so pretty scary to any monsters or monstrous infantry running around. He's on a peg, obviously. He has a 1+ armor save, and 3+ from the cloak, so pretty survivable. And the Lord is got an Ogre Blade, so he's strength 6 all the time. Next to that is his BSB, again a 1-up, this time 4-up ward save, and he has a Lance again on a peg, obviously. Scouted forward behind some impassable terrain is again some Shades, this time 8 Shades. I think the other one might be 8 Shades as well. Behind that, some Cold One Knights, a Cold One Chariot, the 2 Bolt Throwers, Broad Edge and in the Woods, and then alongside that is another 10 Witch Elves, 5 Dark Riders, again no shields, and some Cold One Chariots behind that. So pretty small units, nothing really fights, but he has 80 shots, I think he said, per turn, so he can whittle me down and then engage with fighting. So he can move around, he can stay out of range, and then both the heroes also have crossbows, so pretty good shooting all around. Then starting on my left, I've got 10 warriors within the front right. I'm using the proper wizard for the first time. It's got 3 spells. I was a bit disappointed with the spells I rolled. Gave me basically good ranged ability, but limited once I was in combat, and obviously sat in a combat unit. So he had the essence of free mind, so he could have chosen shamanism. But yeah, I was pretty pleased with that. I mean, how it worked out through the battle, so that was alright. They've got the +1 movement banner on that unit. Next, that's the Chimera. Then 6 Fallen, 8 mounted barbarians, so they can fit into core just with shields and the Mark of Lust, which was really good in this game. Stop those panic tests. Next to that, another 6 Fallen, so no mark there. 3 Lust, chosen, once chosen, and next 3 once chosen with Lust. So yeah, I like this. You might have to keep the units small, but they're pretty fast, they're pretty flexible with that light infantry, so I was really keen to try these guys out. The next unit is the Marauder Horsemen. They're in the building, not behind the building, just obviously for position's sake, so they're marked. The Fallen Beast is ambushing, and that's just up there to remind me it's going to come on. Next to that is 5 Chaos Knights with the BSB, and then the Blood Beast. So straight away I showed this list to James. It's like, why haven't we got 2 Chimeras rather than the Blood Beast? And it's basically, the idea is because he's effectively leadership 9, he can run around on his own, whereas the Chimera can't. So the idea was to have the Knights and the Blood Beast operating together. The Knights got a gleaming icon, so they can reroll 1 failed leadership test. So they're pretty independent. Allows me to chase down separate units, allows me to operate away from the general. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that choice. But let's see how turn 1 pans out. So yeah, The secondary objective is to get a scoring unit into the opponent's deployment zone. Breakthrough, I think it's called. So yeah, we start off, James basically moves up, Shades, Dark Riders, etc. to do some shooting and the crossbows. And yeah, I'm reasonably happy with this. I've got a lot of good armor saves, I've got a lot of tough monsters, so should be okay. Obviously a little bit exposed on my right flank, but he casts one of the metal spells, takes 2 of the knights off the back. Wasn't a lot I could do about it. I had to choose between 3d6 strength 2 and metal shifting d3 plus 1, and yeah, one of them took 2 off. So that was a bad start. Then he shot off my Blood Beast with some Shades and some Dark Riders, just kept hitting the 6s and I couldn't make an arm save. So yeah, that disappeared. He then shot off a Once Chosen, again wounding on 5s, 5 up arm save, didn't make a single arm save, 3 wounds gone. I vanguarded the horsemen behind them, so yeah, they're still in play and out of the ruins. Shot the larger unit of mounted horsemen to bits. Again, didn't make a save. He rolled pretty well, not amazingly on this flank, but rolled pretty well. And to add insult to injury, he chipped a warrior off the back of the warriors. So yeah, because my main fear was not to be able to engage this army, I was slightly concerned that I'd taken so much damage from the first round of shooting that I thought, gosh, this is going to be one-way traffic. But I had spotted a small mistake James had made, so he basically, it was a short hop forward for my Chimera. Yeah, I was possibly going to countercharge, not very likely to get a countercharge, but yeah, the guy's got 7 attacks, he should be alright. So yeah, I hopped forward within breath weapon range of the well, both the chariot and of the Shades, but obviously primary target is the Shades. They've done quite a lot of shooting damage between the 2 units in the first turn, so I was keen to get rid of those guys. Yeah, removed the Shades, rolled really well, took them off, so that was great. So then moved onto my magic phase, which allowed me to take off the cold ones. So I really like this magic phase. As you saw from the picture, I had the get rid of the strength bonuses, which obviously applies best to the cold one chariot with its likely charge come crashing in, and then I still had the strength 2 reroll, strength 2 AP 3 hit. So I thought that was pretty good for the cold one knights. So what I did was I cast metal shifting hits into the cold one chariot, drew most of James's dice, if not all of his dice with that. Then I cast the decrease the strength hits. James had to let this go through. It's not the most vital spell that I'm ever going to cast, but that allowed me to put the attribute onto the unit of Cold One Knights. So that was the key way to go around. I really wanted to cast, my primary spell to cast was the into the Cold One Knights, but I was going to cast that first, then I suddenly twigged that the attribute would kick in after, and my reroll to wound would be no good. So casting the less important spells early meant that I could reroll. I think I managed to reroll 3 of them and get them up to 5. So that was really good. So that worked out really well. Cleared 2 units, which was great. James then charged the chariot past the Manticore into the Fallen. So this really came down to the impact hits, and I was kind of hoping that Fallen would do some harm into the chariot. The chariots are really tough, but Fallen can fight pretty well, so I wasn't too upset about that. He charged. I moved my BSB forward out of the charge arc, and he charged his crossbowman into the front of my BSB. Obviously, he's got a champion in there, so yeah, I'm going to take my time chewing through that, but I'm out of charge arc for the counter charge for the general at the moment. So it's an interesting one whether I can break him in combat before. Shades move round and the wizard pops into the shades. So yeah, good play there. Keep the wizard nice and mobile. Yeah, he rolled well for the impact hits. Decimated my unit. Didn't catch him with the overrun, or the pursuit I should say, and was left looking with juicy targets of the horseman or my running fallen. So yeah, a bit unfortunate. James manages to reduce my armor save. I kill the champion and they hold. And the BSB and the general move round to look at my BSB. So yeah, small problem there. The general, particularly with his D3 wounds in the first round of combat, is a big problem. So yeah, very keen for that combat to go well next turn. I've got a lot of attacks, I've got a stomp, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I charge into the Witch Elves with my Warriors. Now, Warriors Chaos, pretty good counter to Witch Elves, so that should go well. And then the Manticore fell to dangerous terrain into the Bolt Thrower, but the Bolt Throwers were just chewing through my model, so I needed to risk the dangerous terrain, so I was really happy with how that went. Actually, I think I failed 3 dangerous terrain tests, but then managed to pop 2 regen saves. So I guess I was unlucky, and then lucky in equal measures there. So it's all good. On the other flank, the Fallen Beast pops on, threatens the back of the Witch Elves, threatens the Bolt Thrower, and I got reasonably lucky and managed to break the Dread Elf Crossbowman. Now, what was lucky is then I rolled a big overrun and managed to get away, so I was really pleased with that. So I'm out of the charge arc of the BSB and the general now. What's funny at this point is the right hand unit of Once Chosen, I pushed forward to kind of counter charge into the Dread Elf Lord once he charged into my BSB, assuming that there was no way he'd charge the Once Chosen because he was so keen to kill my BSB. Now, unfortunately, because my BSB's done well and got himself out of dodge, he's got this great charge into the Once Chosen. So yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, really. The combat on the left went actually really quite poorly. I left a couple of Witch Elves alive, but fortunately, being Warriors of Change, I've chosen to have Warpfire, and those 2 Witch Elves, although they held on a double 1, were then subsequently killed by the Warpfire. Now, because it says at the end of Hellfire, because it says Hellfire is at the end of phase, we played it that I couldn't then reform. So comments below if you think because there's no unit in touch with them at the end of the phase I could reform, but yeah, that seemed the right way to play it to me. Now that looked like a very obvious counter charge with the Cold One Chariot, which I thought would make a mess but not break me, and then I'd kill it in return. So I was reasonably happy with that. Ended up the Manticore destroyed the the Bolt Thrower, and then needed an 8 to overrun into the second Bolt Thrower. Rolled a 4 on Swift Stride, so didn't even make it out of the wood. Took another wound from dangerous terrain, so that was pretty disappointing. I was pleased with the play here, so I wanted to catch the Chariot with the Fallen. So I mean, the Marauder Horseman on his own is going to be pretty short-lived with the crossbows all floating around. The army's so mobile, there was no point running for the hills. There was no way he was going to get away and not be shot. So what I did was I used that so that the relatively short movement of the chariot can't get round him to escape. And then I pushed the Fallen, so he basically was forced to charge the fleeing Fallen, push him off the board, and that would allow me to get into the flank of his Cold One Chariot for what I presumed would be pretty easy points. That's a lot of attacks going into a flank, and obviously charge flank as well. So yeah, I was pleased with how that looked. So the Lord charged into the Once Chosen. It was a short flee of 6 to be guaranteed to get away. I rolled a 4 and then obviously could re-roll with Chosen. I managed to get 7 and be well clear. That was an impossible charge, which then allowed the other unit once Chosen to go into the flank. Now, they are braving D3 wounds on a strength 6 Dread Elf Lord, but yeah, I was pretty happy with that. They're not a hugely expensive unit to try and break a really expensive unit. So yeah, James takes the charge into the Fallen and they go off the board. Now this was a smart play by James. He risked the dangerous terrain test. It turned out that it was just in arc the rear of the Manticore. His pathetic overrun from killing the bolt thrower meant that his base was still in sight of the Cold One Chariot. Rather than fire his Cold One Chariot into the warriors and kill a few, but probably never break the unit, he put it into the Manticore with its 3 remaining runes and had a good chance of killing it. James then did the brave thing, ran his wizard out of the unit so that it could shoot into the of magic, obviously, into the back of the BSB, who's got 2 wounds left at this point. The Once Chosen continue to run. The Shades move up to try and finish them off, or the Horsemen. Everyone turns around to have a look at the spawn. Jones does the right thing, in my opinion, and rather than take the juicy target of the now on 1 wound after the magic phase BSB, he shoots off the spawn, which is threatening it. I was out of charge arc of the BSB, so that seemed pretty reasonable. The Manticore gets destroyed by the Cold One Chariot, and it had to pursue it. It should have on dice killed it, I think, but he broke it and it ran down. So charge flank was good enough. Again, it turned out that it didn't look, as first off, and even at this angle, it doesn't look like the warriors can see the bolt thrower, but we got the Arc of Viz out and the laser, and yeah, it was actually pretty clear that it was in sight. So that was a long charge, but made the charge. Actually, I think I double sixed the charge. It only needed 9. Pivoted and charged in. Went into the flank of the Lord with the 3 Once Chosen, and I was happy about this. I think we were both quite sure it was a 50-50 sort of combat, but my models were worth a lot less than James's, and his Lord was a pretty key playing piece. So he went first, obviously, did 2 wounds, which went through to 4 wounds, and then I swung back and managed to do 2 wounds on him. So I held, which was relief. Yeah, he did 5 wounds, I did 2 wounds, so charge flank and 2, so I'd only lost by 1. It's then BSB went in the rear, and that wiped me out, unfortunately. My Forsaken charged into the Fallen, charged into the flank of his Cold One Chariot and lost combat. It was unbelievable, terrible rolling. Allowed him to reform and fight me. His Dark Riders got to charge down the hill into the Fallen, and they'd put the writing on the wall for themselves. What should have been some easy points turned into throwing away some points. The BSB walked over the fence to look at the repeater bolt thrower. The wizard joined the units of Dark Riders just because she'd miscast, and that meant all the hits went on her. He couldn't share them out amongst the units, so he suddenly was like, "God, I want to stand in a unit." This is against a good player, having no shooting to speak of, and a wizard tied up on one side of the board. It allows them to just run around and just play free with a wizard, because there's no need for them to stand in a unit. Why would he? He's got much better line of sight, he's got much better maneuverability. He can focus his shooting with his shades while still having great line of sight for spells in a different direction with his wizards. So it was a good play to start with, but I think the miscast which chipped a wound off him was lucky not to do more than that, scared him with his wizard. So he chucked him to the Dark Riders. Once chosen was stood on the board edge, fleeing still, but able to rally on their full leadership. The horseman was on his own. Yeah, so both were holding a reasonable amount of points, but yeah, just hanging in there. Now, at this point, James has a discussion with himself about who he should shoot with his shades, and I kept my mouth firmly shut. In my opinion, it's a definite that he should try and chip that one wound off the once chosen and get them running on half leadership, rather than leaving them alive. The Marauder Horseman is going to die. He's got heaps of shots. It's going to die before the end of the game, either charged by that unit of, which is if I fail a march test, or be shot at some point. So, to my mind, the Marauder Horseman is all he is taking up time for those units. He is going to die. James eventually spots it and does the right thing and shoots off the one wound, and they fail to rally and run off, so it turned out to be a good play. Yet the Fallen get destroyed in combat and run down by the chariot, and the horseman shoots to hold. The once chosen, were killed before they got to swing and try and finish off the Lord, leaving him on one wound. Wizard comically miscast again, killed a couple of Dark Riders and took another wound off herself. So yeah, she's pretty precarious at this point. James is not keen to cast. At this point, it turns out that I pretty much have only got my warriors and my wizard left. So they've charged into the back of the Cold One chariot. It didn't do enough wounds. I think it's left on one wound at this point, and it fled. So we then moved up onto the hills. There was three Dark Riders and the wizard still there. And I felt I was quite pleased with this play. So rather than do the very obvious thing, charge a Cold One chariot in the rear, which would then mean it fled, I moved up onto the hill 1 inch behind it. So the Cold One chariot's very likely 10 more reroll to rally. I then stood 1 inch behind it, and I can charge it in my last turn. And the moving up on the hill allows me to cast 2 spells into. So cast Metal Shifting into the Lord, meaning it was quite late to die. James chucked all his dice at that to stop it, and then that allowed me to cast 3d6 strength 2 into the Dark Riders. I was unlucky not to get both the Dark Riders and the Wizard, but yeah, managed to get the Wizard, which was a great relief. Leaving the Lord on one wound is a bit galling at this point. I know that James is just going to run him away and leave me not getting that 700 points. At this stage, James had a lot of umming and ahhing. Does he charge in the 2 heroes on pegs into the warriors and try and mop it up? I mean, it came down to, as silly as it sounds, it would have, if it was a tournament game, it would have depended on where in the tournament. If it was game 1, he'd probably just hide them. If it was game 5 or 6 final games and you need the 20 to podium, or you need the 20 to win the tournament, then you definitely chuck them in. So yeah, we had a little discussion, and we kind of both said, well, as it stands, it's like to end up at 13 or 14 to James. If he chucks them in, it could swing big either way. Yeah, I'm only strength 4. He's got 1 up arm saves, but we've all rolled a 1 before. So he decided to play the safe game and put both pegs behind the impassable terrain, so my wizard couldn't get line of sight. Again, I decided not to charge the Cold One chariot, but to try and be greedy. So I cast Metal Shifting into the chariot, killed that, and then I cast into the Strength 2 Magic Missile into the shades and failed to chip them down to enough to get any points out of them. So yeah, it was a great game again. It was it's always tricky playing with very little shooting against small units. I really liked having the wizard in my list, which I haven't really taken advantage of before. I've probably swung the other way and was in my head planning a list with a lot more magic in it, which I'm sure at some point I will write and put on the table for your enjoyment. But no, it was a good game. It ended up at 13 points to James. It was just shy of going up to 14, but I mean I was very unlucky not to kill a car the last Dark Rider, and I was pretty unlucky not to kill his Lord. So yeah, either one of those would have been a swing back to me and ended up almost a draw. We actually sat down and did the dice to see what would happen if both pegs went into the Warriors unit, and as it worked out, he killed my wizard and didn't do a lot else, which would have put him up to a 14. But yeah, he did risk 4 goes of me killing his lord before he killed my wizard, which would have taken it down to a 12. So yeah, it was dicey, very dicey if he'd done that. But it was a good game and all. We both made a couple of mistakes, but there was a lot of sort of quite dynamic play, which was really good. And I think that's what you have to do against multiple small units. You have to think outside the box. You've got to keep moving. I think the Warriors needed the magic missiles. I should have placed the Warriors a lot more central, and that would have allowed my magic missiles to reach out to both sides of the board. So that would definitely be something I need to do in future. But this is an army I'm going to take to a tournament next weekend, hopefully fully painted, and yeah, should be good from there. So hopefully I'll be able to do some battle reports there. So check back for the channel and we'll take from there. But yeah, thanks for watching.